Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa and I'm from the Ethereum Foundation's Ecosystem Support Program. And today we have Aya here with us, who's the Executive Director of the Ethereum Foundation. So we'll start off with a simpler question. We are 10 years into Ethereum development now. What do you think people still don't understand about Ethereum, or what are some common misconceptions about the ecosystem?
Yeah, first of all, this participating in this big event is kind of our experiment this year. Thinking, because first setting the expectation, because we are not really here to sell Ethereum. And the reason why is that maybe that you can understand that from my talk. The most important thing, but also the biggest misunderstanding is that EF doesn't own Ethereum, or Ethereum is not equal to the Ethereum Foundation. And it is the technology itself, the platform, it is run by, actually currently there are more than 2,000 active contributors monthly, which is by far the largest open source platform community, and that is very important. That very tiny portion of that is from people from the Ethereum Foundation.
All right, and you mentioned that the common misconception is that EF doesn't own Ethereum, and also that Ethereum is a really open and permissionless ecosystem. So then, what exactly does the EF do?
Yes. So the Ethereum Foundation supports all different kinds of activities in the ecosystem, and that includes a core development research work of the platform, but also other educational activities, such as there are a lot of local events happening run by local community members, and also other educational materials. And the important thing is it's not the EF that is doing everything. Someone just asked me, "Oh, are you guys running Zuzalu?" And then Zuzalu is also part of this pop-up city idea that was created by community members, and then there are many other experiments happening. And then we do have, and by deciding what our actions, we do have 3 guiding principles. One is long-term thinking, which is actually base of everything. And the second is stewardship of values. And the last one is subtraction.
Let's talk about these guiding principles, because in my opinion, they're one of the most distinctive features of the Ethereum Foundation. So you mentioned stewardship of values. What values are these?
So, the values, there are a certain set of values that Ethereum Ethereum community believe in, and that's not something we created, something that are there, and then that attracted to the most number of developers to participate in this ecosystem. Open source is, one of the most important values, and then, like I said, open participation, creatable neutrality, decentralization. I just, overheard someone was saying decentralization is just a meme. And Ethereum does take decentralization very seriously. It doesn't compromise decentralization just to increase the number of transactions quickly. And that you see that in the technology, but you see in the way how our people operate, and then, like I said, this is, you can participate at any layer, but also how these activities are run by all different teams in the ecosystem. There are, most number of client teams running clients, but also the biggest milestone the Ethereum ecosystem has done, the merge in 2022, including the shift of consensus mechanism from proof of work to proof of stake. That work itself was very daunting, hard work, because that shift of consensus needed to be done when thousands of applications were already running. But also, the more important part is that progress was made by multiple teams who were involved, not by the Ethereum Foundation being the product manager and then the boss making all the plans and making that progress together with all different teams, actually being the contributor, and that achievement was way harder than, we could have even expected. And so that's why you see that spirit of decentralization in all different parts of ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why we take decentralization so seriously, and the reason why the merge was carried out in the way that it was, is because of one of the other principles, which is long-term thinking. So would you like to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so it does actually lead to the long-term thinking principle because there are so many ways to make things happen quickly or make things bigger. But that if you we are looking at the world when we don't exist, meaning I personally won't live forever unless the longevity innovation would really beat that. So we do think about the time when we won't exist anymore, but then how do we still maintain those values? Because that is the most important part of, well, it should be the most important part of what we are doing. And so the long term, everything has to be based on long-term thinking.
And then the final guiding principle, which is subtraction. You gave a talk at DevCon Bogota 2 years ago about subtraction as a guiding principle. And since then, there has been a lot of conversation in the ecosystem about what subtraction actually means. So can we revisit this concept, and can you talk us through how and why the EF landed on subtraction?
Yeah, so when we made the decision, or when I gave a talk at DevCon 2022 about subtraction, I didn't think this would bring that big of, well, first also positive feedback, but also some controversy. And I think that subtraction is something more natural to me. I think that maybe it's more natural to the Eastern wisdom. But I realized that it has this image of some negative image that for a lot of parts of the world. And that misunderstanding is that people think that's equal to doing less or minimalism, and then that's actually not exactly right, or it's actually different. Because in order to subtract, you actually have to think more and even do more things. And I can give you some examples. For example, one of the things that happened after I joined EF, we did was making the website of Ethereum.org as communities. And it used to actually, the Ethereum.org website, it used to show, to talk about the teams in the Ethereum Foundation. That was it. And then now this website is really for the community, run by community members. EF people are only coordinating the work, encouraging people to participate, creating the contents, again, with the same concept of it's open source. Anyone can join, and then community can make the decision what content should be out there, how to explain layer 2, for example. And also there are a lot of contributors to the translation work. Like now, the website has 63 languages, which is also the great achievement by the community. So that actually, compared to previous website, it requires a lot more work. So we're actually doing more to subtract. And that seems to be very hard to understand for people. But also we added another, for example, the grant giving work, the effort And that's also coming from subtraction, like how do we support teams outside of the Ethereum Foundation, because those are very important. And then that's also extra work to do, like actually, maybe Vanessa, you're part of this grant team, ecosystem support program, and then maybe you can share from your experience.
Yeah, so for context, the Ecosystem Support Program is a team that's part of the Ethereum Foundation, but we're also a really public-facing team, and we focus on providing support to the Ethereum ecosystem. So that support can be financial in the sense of awarding grants to projects that are public goods, free and open source, non-commercial, and that benefits the Ethereum ecosystem and the protocol. Or it can also be non-financial support in the sense of providing guidance and connections to these teams. So whenever we receive a grant application, evaluating whether or not a team is competent and capable, or whether or not the project is feasible or technically sound, these are the more straightforward parts of the work that we do. The harder part is really constantly asking ourselves the question, what are the possible second or even third order positive and negative impacts of the decisions that we're making? And this really ties into subtraction and long-term thinking. So I'll give an example. Let's say that we decide to provide a grant to a team that's building a solution to solve a specific problem in the Ethereum ecosystem. On one hand, it's really great because we're encouraging people to work on important problems in the Ethereum ecosystem and the protocol. And on the other hand, we are then asking ourselves, if we support this, does it look like this particular solution has an official EF stamp of approval? And if yes, does this then encourage other people in the ecosystem from creating and developing newer and potentially better solutions? And if yes, then what does that then mean for innovation and diversity in the Ethereum ecosystem? So it constantly feels like a balancing act where you're considering different trade-offs. And so I want to direct this question back to you, Aya. How do you maintain balance and decide when and how to subtract?
Yes, so that is actually a hard question. We need to ask to ourselves constantly, because it is not just about mindlessly subtracting and then doing less. I look at the ecosystem, Ethereum ecosystem, just like the natural ecosystem, not really like a business ecosystem way. And the reason why is that since it's not controlled by the Ethereum Foundation, and we don't know what is going to become popular, what is going to be the main thing, and then how new idea will come. And since we don't really control, it like acts more like natural ecosystem. And then there are a lot of moving pieces and living things out there. And so what we need to do is observe what's happening in the ecosystem, and we ourselves look at our laws in like what is the law of EF now. So it should not be the same as our law, the Ethereum Foundation's law in 2017, for example, because the ecosystem is a lot different now. And then now there are, first of all, there are tools now, and then, so what is the law, like what are the things that we are doing, but maybe we should not be doing now? What are the things actually we haven't been doing, but maybe we need to start thinking or doing? Mm-hmm. So those are the questions that we need to constantly ask. And then in that, there are things that we definitely need to add. Because, for example, I still think that the role of Ethereum Foundation, the important thing is like the growth is happening. You know, like you come to this token event and then you see all the layer 2s are presenting their businesses, and then so growth is happening, but the maintaining the values, maintaining the culture, it is not just, cannot just done by the Ethereum Foundation, but we do have this unique role still in this, and that's why there are things that we need to do more. And also another thing about subtraction is by subtracting, the goal is not really making something small. There is a goal that we want to grow in the end, like something, we want to grow something in the end. So something should be becoming either better or even big. And what is that? And then for us, that is the impact this technology can create in the end. So we are actually thinking to grow that, and then subtraction is just the strategy to get there. So that those questions are really important for us to keep asking, and then I think all the UF people now, I'm glad to hear like how you are thinking in your work too. So that's maybe my answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. And I think this conversation is probably one that's really different from the other conversations that are taking place at Token. And there are a lot of businesses here today at Token naturally, and you used to be part of a business in the industry as well. So do you have a final parting message for people who would like to start thinking about subtraction more?
Yes. Speaking of business, so I used to be a part of a business in the industry. I joined this industry a while ago, like more than a decade ago. And then I was an early member of Team Kraken in exchange, and then we were only a few of us. But because the industry was early, I was involved in a lot of like early industry work, like before the business work. And then one of the things that I had to lead was this supporting Gok's bankruptcy work that was happening in Japan. There are like the biggest, a lot of people in the world lost their asset. And then I was working with actually like Michael Branager from the current CEO of Chain Analysis. We were working together for the project, and then convinced the trustee of the bankruptcy not to liquidate, like assets. Back in those days was mainly Bitcoin, and because of that work, 200,000 Bitcoin were not liquidated, and the point is that the work was actually, we were working together. Everyone in the industry was like thought this was existential like crisis. Like we have to work together, otherwise this industry might be killed. And I think there was a part that I felt like really great in being able to work together with all the early talents, but also I saw when I joined Ethereum, I saw the similar this working together, playing infinite games together, and then I thought that was the reason why I started to call this vision of infinite garden. And then I hope like we're still doing all this together. There's so many businesses now, but I hope people see more systemic view of everything. And by doing that, by only looking at a bigger picture, you can see maybe where you can subtract too. So that's my message in the end, is really look at the big picture and then think we are in the same game.
All right, thank you. I believe we are at time already. So thank you so much, Aya, for sharing your really valuable insights on our guiding principles and philosophies.
Thank you.